Hello and welcome back to the Prosperous Homeschool Summit, where we help remarkable homeschool families and those looking into homeschooling to lead prosperous, productive, and healthy lives for both right now and for their future. So today we have my friend Javelin, I'm going to get it wrong again, Guidry. Did I say it right?
Yes.
All right. And I met this wonderful man just in a leadership conference, and I just fell in love with his heart and his philosophy. And we started to talk about several different topics, but today we're going to focus on devices and mental health and the way that things have kind of gone with just the way our culture is nowadays. So, Javelin, why don't you give us a little bit of your background and history? Because I know you have some pretty impressive things there that we've talked about.
Yeah. So my background is I grew up here in Southern California, and I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to play football at UCLA. I actually played with my brother as well. And
Oh,
also, I was there with my high school, college sweetheart, and we got married there and just celebrated 27 years on last week,
awesome.
the 7th. And so we have three amazing young children, or adult children now, and we've raised them through athletics and sports and their faith.
Hmm.
And they're now all either completed with college and into their careers. We have a 22-year-old, she just graduated summa cum laude from San Diego State. My other son's finishing up his master's at San Jose State, and he has an undergrad degree from UCLA, where he played football. And then my oldest is in his fourth year with the New York Jets. And so a lot of
Wow.
what I do in my career now is taking what I've learned on my journey as a parent, as a coach, and as a former player, and use that wisdom, those experiences, along with a lot of the intellectual knowledge right now, to pass that on to kids and their parents who are on their sports journey, and not just the traditional sports. It can be band, it could be dance.
Hmm.
All has similar type of qualities that prepare, I believe, our young people for life. And so that's my passion, that's my heart, that's what I enjoy doing.
Awesome. Yes. And you've been on the field with some pretty cool, well-known people, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So at UCLA, we're a big time university. So played against Tom Brady and his first college action. Peyton Manning, we played three times against each other. Charles Woodson, Hall of Fame guys, Jonathan Ogden, and I played with. So just a number of great people, competitive people that I got a chance to play with in front of 110,000, 101,000 people. So that's always exciting.
Yeah.
Be able to
Yeah.
block out the noise and do what you need to do.
Uh-huh. Yeah, which is I say that because like there's a whole aspect of mental health when you get into a like that kind of pressure, that
Hmm.
pressurized system. UCLA, any kind of like for me, it's the performance, the stage performance.
Yeah,
And getting into that, there's a whole different kind of mental process you kind of have to walk yourself through. So I just think it's phenomenal that you've taken all of that history and you've cultivated to give it back really as a gift into the culture and help other people, leading them how to lead their lives. And so I just love that story. And I love that you're a man of faith and you incorporate your faith in it, which is just beautiful. Like you don't
yes,
come across too many people who, are willing to step up and say, yes, I am a bold Christian and I believe that God is really the source of finding our strength and um and our leader, right? He's leading
absolutely.
us to be a leader. So awesome. So let's dive into the devices because I know you're doing something where you're discussing with people about the impact the devices have had on our culture. So where have you seen the dependency of devices in our culture?
Yeah, so when we talk about devices, we're talking about basically iPhones, the smartphones, and tablets. And you won't go anywhere and not see a young person with their tablet or with their phone, rather. And so it came about in working with one of my speakers about how it affected athletic performance.
Hmm.
And so that piqued my interest. And the statistics around, it's 46% of teenagers, 11 to 17 that were interviewed says 46% said that social media made them feel worse. Another 40% said it made them feel neither better nor worse. And then the other 14% said, that it made them feel better. And, the average screen time of teenagers today is somewhere in the neighborhood of, I believe it's 4.5 hours, where 60% of our teenagers are spending that much time on their devices.
Hmm.
And when you talk about what they get access to in social media, you get everybody else's highlight reel, everybody else's best foot forward, and you're looking at that, and it opens the door to continually looking at reels and shorts of someone doing this and you comparing yourself to that, or
Hmm.
you getting in the conditioned mindset that I need my validation is based upon views and likes at a peer level. It makes that projection where we are, quote unquote, so connected right now, but yet the US Surgeon General last year said we are in an epidemic of loneliness for our teens. And so when you look at the statistics, that we are in a time where our kids are the most lonely, the most depressed, they
Hmm.
are filled with anxiety, they are filled with a lot of self-doubt, and you see the lack of communication skills, social skills, and it's not to create a big picture, but it's to create an awareness that no generation of parents have had to parent kids who have access to these devices, and anything and everything their hearts desire is through those devices. And so
Hmm.
parents are not equipped because no generation before them had to deal with this. And so I really feel that part of my responsibility is to help educate parents, equip parents with the information so that they can create their own strategy and family plans. They can model this with their kids. And if you watch the movie Social Media, you'll see that the algorithms within those apps are designed to make it addictive.
Hmm.
And as the Harvard University studies show that, they equate the dopamine spike that the kids receive from watching these reels and shorts and consuming this type of content is similar to pulling down a lever of a slot machine.
Hmm.
And it goes to the
Interesting.
reward center of the brain, of the amygdala, and it's hijacking the brain. And it's
Wow.
where the prefrontal cortex, executive function, where the critical thinking, the problem solving skills, what allows them to make sound decisions, it's underdeveloped.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
that's the brain developing for these young kids, especially for younger kids. It's even
Yeah.
more drastic in their brain development. So that awareness and equipping them and then empowering them to make decisions, tough decisions with their kids, no matter the age, so that they have an understanding of why it's important and how they learn, how they grow, how they developed in the most
Yeah.
optimal.
Yeah. It's really tech, it's like brought a whole different kind of stress because it's become almost an identity thing, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
interesting, and that is also why it creates the addiction. Like, because you're getting that dopamine fix, like you're saying,
Yes.
and then they're relating it to their personal identity. Very, very interesting and very strong, right?
It's very strong, and it's very, very strong, Andrew, because it allows them to be trained and conditioned in a way where they are used to getting rewards, used to
Hmm.
instant gratification. And so then you create this environment of entitlement and expectation that I should get some type of reward.
Yeah.
And so, even with my own kids, they were at the kind of the early stage of the smartphone and devices, and they didn't get them till later. And my thing was, you're looking at, they had goals of playing in college and pros, and I said, okay, you're looking at the highlight reel. I want you to go and YouTube their training.
Hmm.
Look at the process. because they had to become that. Look how many shots Steph Curry makes every day, shoots and makes every day. So he has
Mm-hmm.
the confidence to go out there and do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the swimmer, or look at, the softball player. Look at their regiment, what they do, and understand that, because that's what you can replicate.
Mm-hmm. For sure. What kind of boundaries did you set for your family? Because you have some sons, and what were those? What were the things you put in place?
Yeah, one of the things my wife and I did is for us, it's a lot about mindset and the long game, because our goal is to raise young people that are going to be adults that are independent, that can
Mm-hmm.
think for themselves and make decisions for themselves, and have a sense of responsibility and ownership over their lives
Yeah.
and what God has called them to, and the greatness that's in each one of them. And, you know, we used to tell them that, you're like a brand. You're your own brand. You're your own
Mm-hmm.
CEO of your own company. So if you like something that's incongruent with your values, with the values of your family, with the Guidry last name, or you post something that's going to smear or put you in a bad light, then your brand goes down.
I
And
like
that
that.
will affect you in the goals that you're looking to achieve, whether it's getting a scholarship to be at UCLA, or going to the NFL, or going to a dance academy or performing arts school, whatever it may
Yeah.
be. You have to own that. And so when you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at things, or liking at things, or commenting on controversial things, you have to be aware of that's permanent.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a
Mm-hmm.
Sharpie marker that
Yeah.
you can't retract.
Yeah.
And so that allowed them to really give them a perspective and a lens by which they saw what they were consuming. you
Hmm.
know and then we always engage, not only, well, what are you looking at, why does that interest you, how does that make you feel, is that something that you want to do? So we have those type of conversations with them, so that they can have a self-awareness of what they're doing, and not be allow themselves to be hijacked with what the culture is doing,
Mm-hmm.
and the social comparison that goes on, across social media. And the current in this day and age is so strong
Mm-hmm.
that anything you do is going to be up against current. So especially as a Christian
Yeah.
academy, and you're talking about prosperity, parents have to come together. So if they have friends at school, they have other friends that also believe the same thing. And so that's why, the family strategy plan, and doing that with other parents that are in the same page, that will help their kids, so they don't feel so isolated.
I love how you said personal brand. I thought that was so fabulous because it's something that like we hear about in business, but like it's really reputation, right?
Mhm.
And I think sometimes teenagers, they don't really understand the importance of their reputation and what that does for them.
Right.
But it's really like a permanent thing when you put something out there, when you put something out in cyberspace, right? Anyone can take a screenshot of it. It doesn't matter how long it's up, right?
Right.
So it's that whole idea of what are you representing? Who are you
Mhm.
representing?
Right.
And your last name is attached to this. So wow, and all the mistakes that, it's not that God can't cover those, but like it's a little bit more difficult when it's put out there for everybody to see in the whole wide world, really, if you think about it that way. So wow. So,
Yeah.
so true. So you put up these personal boundaries. How old were your kids when you allowed them to have like a phone or something like that? And did you put on like security?
No, we didn't do the security. They were in high school when they got it, and we recently moved, and I found this when we moved, right here. Oh,
You still here?
yes, look at this right here.
Oh, look at that. That's a beautiful, what is that, Nokia? With where you still have to like triple tap the buttons to get the right
Yeah, this is
letter.
the Virgin Mobile Samsung,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. What was
and
that, Samsung?
so yeah, so when you look at this device, this limits the amount of challenges you got to be faced with. you
That's what
know
they got for their first phone.
Yes, and so,
I love it.
and we reinforce, these devices with examples of events that happen in the news,
Hmm.
athletes or individuals that a tweet, it could be a racist tweet, or it can be, a misogynistic tweet, or an event that happened, or they got filmed doing something. We really take those as teachable moments.
Mm.
And we would do, I remember doing devotionals about, okay, whatever you consume most, that's what you're going to become.
Yes, so true.
you
What goes in
know
your eye gate, in your ear gate, comes out your mouth gate, right?
and then it
That's
leads to
something
your
to say.
action gate. Yeah, then it leads to action.
Yeah. Yes, yes, exactly. Your actions too. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the WP3 Sports and what it is you do there.
Yeah, so WP3 Sports is an organization that I started that is focused on a mission of empowering young people, youth and teens, to live in their greatness. And I define greatness as being your most authentic self. And I have the kids raise their hands up, and I said, that imprint on there, that you're one of one. God created
Mm.
you one of one. You only can be the best version of this person right here.
Mm.
And that's your greatness. Now, what they define as greatness, you can't control, and that's always a moving target. But if you can
Hmm.
be the greatest you and a better version of you from yesterday than you were uh, today, than you were yesterday, then you've achieved that,
Hmm.
regardless of talent. And so it's being authentic, it's being the best version of yourself, and then it's inspiring others through love and service. And that's being a part of
Hmm.
something bigger than yourself, your teammates, how you represent yourself. And so I wrote a book called Warrior Parent Playbook, utilizing sports to empower children to live in greatness. And it's on Amazon. And the second half of the book, I focus on specific character traits or lessons that are in sports. So there's work ethic, there's growth mindset, there's grit, there's competitive drive, there's confidence, leadership. And so there's a chapter dedicated to each one of those. And after completing the book, I said, well, I have to do something to allow them to apply it. So then I
Hmm.
created a team-based program that teams can do together to actively allow the kids to see how they use those traits in their dance or their band or in their
Hmm.
sport of football or basketball or track, whatever it may be, and how it can apply to their personal life.
Mm.
We don't want to leave it in the jersey or leave it on the field. We want to
Mm.
take that same discipline, that same focus, that same grit, that same respect for authority that you
Yeah.
have in the game that's clearly defined. And now you take ownership of that when you leave the field, because that's who you are.
Yes.
That sport
So,
you do on the field is just you do, but you demonstrate what you're capable of. And so
hmm.
it raises that standard to help them make it be not just a sports, but a sports experience. Because when you experience something, you're able to take more of the essence and the lessons out of it and make it as a part of elevating you to a level to you can become this person and not just something you do.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. So really, parents could take this book on an individual basis and then apply it with their child.
Mm-hmm.
But also someone like me could get it for, our athletes, our dancers,
Yes.
or like a sports team. And you
Right.
could do it collectively, right? As
Yes.
a group. And
Yes.
I love that. It's such and I don't know if it's like biblically based or not, but I know that just those elements of it, like it would be very easy to go, okay, scripture talks about this. Right? And it'd be very easy
Oh,
to find a scripture that
oh,
would relate to all
oh,
that.
yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. So my last year at Vista Marietta High School in 2022, we did a devotional each week on each of those specific traits. So
Awesome.
every morning, it was purely volunteer. It's a public school, so it wasn't
Sure.
required. But the head coach was on board, and so I prepared a devotional every week, and I showed them in Scripture what work ethic looks like, and say,
Mm,
okay, look, in Colossians it says, whatever you do, do it with all your heart,
yes.
as unto the Lord, and not as unto men. You
Mm,
know, And you look at, you can look at discipline or competitive drive, where Paul talks about how in Corinthians, how he talks about, those who run the race go for a perishable crown,
Mm,
and we run for an imperishable crown. And
mm,
I said, if you're in the race, run to win, run in such a
mhm.
way to win. So when he talks about run in such a way to win, he's talking about how you run, how you live. Do it in such a way where you're going after that prize. That's a competitive drive.
Yes.
you
Yes.
know that's being
Yeah.
disciplined in your training. That's
Yeah.
being focused on a prize. you
Yes.
know and so yeah, I my background, I got saved as at UCLA as a freshman, and was in Athletes in
Mm.
Action. And then I was a chaplain for 5 years for a professional arena football team. And so I'm waiting for the opportunity to modify the um, the program for a Christian or a private school, because it's ready to go. I just have to get the opportunity to integrate it.
I love it. I love it. I think that's fabulous. I don't think it's far off, my friend. God keeps moving things for you. And I love sensing even the presence of the Holy Spirit just talking to you, even though it's across Zoom. And I am just looking forward to hearing all about it. I did want to talk a little bit about the mental performance tune-up program that you have, because I think that's something that many athletes and families can, when they're in like kind of those big moments of they're they're really making their way in like softball or football or something like that, and some of that pressure has really sent in.
Right.
What does that tune-up look like?
Yeah. So the mental performance tune-up is basically focusing on the mental skill side of the game, mental fitness, mental conditioning, and it really comes down to the vision that a parent or a child has for themselves. And it's you know in the world of highly competitive sports, they want a collegiate scholarship. And whether they're in softball, whether they're in volleyball or soccer, their goal of why they pay dues and they travel around the country and they do
Mm,
all they do is because they have that goal. They see a version of themselves playing at the collegiate level.
mm,
And so I wanted to tap into that space to get the mindset, because sports is 80% mental. Dance
mm,
is more mental than it is physical.
mm,
And so what we do is we really tap into what I call a day one mentality. And what
mm.
a day one mindset, a day one mentality is: when we play ball, we knew when some guys walked on campus that they're going to be a starter day one.
Hmm.
We knew they were a day one player. That's what we called them. I mean, there's
Hmm.
guys I played with that went to the Hall of Fame. They were basketball guys. When they came on to UCLA, oh, he's starting day one. You already know it,
Yeah.
but that's a mindset that individual developed over time and helped them become that, so that when people saw it outwardly, they don't understand what it took for them on their journey to get to that place.
Mm-hmm.
And so
So
I want to
true.
take that mindset and help young people, and it's usually starting at 12, 13 years old, where we start developing that day one mindset. And so we go through, managing expectations and pressures. We go through performance anxiety. We go through building their confidence and self-talk. We go through visualization. We go through self-awareness, being presence, mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
mental toughness. We go through those things in emotional regulation to help them be at the highest level they can be. Because at the end of the day, yes, we want that collegiate scholarship, but what's more important is, who do you become in that process?
Mm. Yeah, so true. So true. Do you feel like there's less people striving in like athleticism because of devices? Do you think it's caused a setback at all?
Well, yes. And, well, I believe devices is the number one threat to kids, right behind parents. So, uh,
So
um,
it bleeped out just a little bit there. So could you repeat that?
I said devices are the number one threat to our kids today,
Right.
right behind parents.
Mm.
I said that the other day to 3 softball teams talking to their kids and their parents, and some of them laugh. But it's the reality of it. When you go and look at therapists, when people talk to individuals, adults, the number one they go back to is the childhood wound or childhood
Mm-hmm.
trauma or child
Mm.
event, and how they have to adapt and how it shapes them as adults. But it's also parents are the ones that control these devices in terms of
Mm-hmm.
giving their kids access to them
Right.
and putting those boundaries in place and engaging with them and say, no, it's dinner time. We don't do that here. We have conversation. Scott Donnell, who was one of our speakers at Gravy Stack, he talks about value creation and the things that he and his family do that he interviewed 120, high net worth individuals and talked about legacy. And he put that in the book. And that's one of the things that they do,
Mm.
and so I share that all to say is that these devices are deterring kids from putting in that social and physical activity of sports. And then we just also have a culture of coaches who can be a little bit more highly competitive and abrasive that is deterring kids at earlier ages from continuing on to sports. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a combination of the culture that we have, but the devices are definitely not a contributor to more kids continuing into sports activities.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. So very good information. And I'm hoping at some point I'll be able to interview, it was Scott, right?
Yes, Scott Donnell.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope to get him on here at some point, which would be fabulous because he's got some amazing information about creating a legacy. But it sounds like you've already started creating a wonderful legacy in your family, which is awesome. Very, very good. Kudos to you on that.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that we were very intentional when we got married and of breaking generational cycles
Yes.
in our family that are, pervasive in our culture. And we wanted to be intentional about the legacy that we created with our children. And, it's a high bar, that we live by. My wife was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years, which was our goal. And then she said, okay, I'm going to do something a little easier. And she got into medical school and she became not only a physician, she's a hospice physician.
Wow.
And so our kids saw her studying and the sacrifices, all the papers on the floors and the concept maps when we moved to Texas. And they saw the sacrifices. They saw her tears and emotions when things didn't work out. And so, I encourage your parents that kids are watching and what you
Uh-huh.
model and what you give them access to will have an influence on them. And
Yes.
usually a lot stronger influence than some of the things that you say to them.
So true, right? The actions are caught, right? Even more than the words are spoken. So, so true. Well, that's fabulous. Do you have any last words for our homeschool families and anything you'd
Yes.
like to say to them?
Yes, homeschool families. I love what you are doing. We have friends that homeschool their kids, and they're at USC and at Baylor, and they've done so well. And I just commend you for taking ownership over the education and the development of your kids. And I love the support network that Andrea has in place for you. And and I would just encourage you to make sure that they stay social in their activities with other kids because that's part of their development. And I would say, keep them involved in sports or dance and other activities. And any way that I can support you in what you're doing so that we can develop the next generation of leaders that have strong faith, that have strong convictions, and that want to make an impact in the lives of other people.
Awesome. Thank you, Javelin, so much. You guys can find his book on Amazon. It's in paperback as well as in Kindle version. It is Warrior Parent Playbook. And you can also connect with him at wp3sports.com. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So thank you so much, Javelin, for joining us. And I hope you all just heard a beautiful message today and something impacted you for your homeschooling journey. God bless you all.
Yes.